everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm Andrea, and this is the Andrea Styles video blog. On Andrea Styles, we cover hair, fashion, and face, styling tips, advice, questions from clients, and today we're gonna actually be covering that instant glowing blush. So today we're gonna talk about the blush that you see on a bride, the blush that looks like she's not even wearing makeup. It's not layers of caked on makeup. It's that look like, oh, I just had this and it's beautiful and it's coming from the inside out. And so this is the kind of thing I look for when I'm doing like a photo shoot with a bride or a young child. And I'm gonna tell you how to get it today using some of the things you might already have in your makeup bag. If you would like to follow along, these are the supplies that we'll be using. So here we go. Toner to begin with. If you don't have a toner already, when I'm using toner to mix and work with makeup, I usually prefer something that's non-alcoholic, like a simple witch hazel toner. Next, you're actually going to need your blush. I have 3 different options. First, and what I typically use for this, is a liquid tint. Some people call it a stain, like a cheek or lip stain. This one actually comes in a lip style container, and it's very easy to apply with a sponge tip. I have one that's in a cream container, in a stick that you can apply. And that is also called a lip stain, or a cheek stain rather. You could use it for either. I personally would call that more of a cream blush. And then last but not least, if you have powder blush and you love the shade, we could actually use a powder blush as well. So I've chosen a powder blush today. And the last thing that you're gonna need is a simple setting powder. You could use a translucent powder that has no color, or if you have a setting powder that has some color, or perhaps a mineral powder, those will work. They're just going to tone down the blush a little bit more than if you use a translucent. If you're using a powder, you'll also need your brushes. We have our blush brush that's a little bit smaller, and the one I've chosen for today has a flat edge to the tip of it. And then a larger brush for your setting powder. I chose the kabuki brush for today. So before we begin, I just want to make sure that our canvas is prepped for our blush. By that I mean your face is your canvas. So you should have already moisturized, put on foundation primer, and a liquid or cream foundation. If you use a mineral powder foundation, save that step for the very end. All right, let's take a look in the mirror. So we're gonna start today with my cream blush. It's called a cheek stain, but it is in a stick form and it's creamier, so I would still call it a cream blush. What I'm doing is using small circular motions to highlight the cheekbone. I've noticed this particular zone highlighted a lot in the Anthropology catalog, so I thought I'd try it today. It doesn't matter if you want to highlight the apple of the cheek more or higher on the cheekbone. That's your choice and based on your face shape. So today we're just talking about how to make the blush look like it's glowing. And then we want to blend out the edges. You can use your finger or a sponge. If you're working on a client, you probably want to use a sponge. So that's if you're working with the cheek cream or stain. If you don't have cheek cream or stain, you're going to work with your toner. So I've got my toner right here. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to spray the top of my blush brush. And you don't need very much. Then you're going to take your blush brush and just lightly rub the top on a hard surface, like the top of perhaps your blush container, just to blend the moisture so that it's not drippy. And then I'm going to dab the top of my brush into the cream, or the powder blush. And by mixing it with the toner, I'm actually turning this into something of a cheek stain. And I'm going to use that same zone of my cheek. I can feel that it's not very wet. Maybe it dried while I was talking to you guys. So I'm going to spray my brush again with toner and reapply. Notice I'm not using streaky motions. So you can see that now I have cheeks with similar cheek color. Two different brands, but similar colors happening on the cheeks here. One that we applied with a cream blush and one that we applied with the powder turned into something of a stain by using our toner. And then the next part is actually pretty simple. We're gonna take our translucent powder. Make sure that your blush doesn't have a uneven covering. You see how that's very uneven? It's heavy in one spot. Make sure that it's nicely even. And we're gonna set the blush. This softens things. If you've ever used Photoshop, it reminds me of using the blur tool on Photoshop, where it just takes the edges of everything you're doing and softens it a little bit. And then right after that, you have a glowing, beautiful, inside out cheek color. If you do choose to use a powder with some color to it, I will just mention that it's good if you make your blush color just a little brighter, because the color from your powder is going to mute it out even more. It's going to act as an even stronger blur tool. So here we have our inside out glowing blush. Thank you for joining me today for Andrea Styles. I had a great time, and I'm so glad that I got to show you tips and techniques about how to make your blush look like it's glowing from the inside out. And as usual, I leave you with this advice: be inspired.